Hello, brother. Hi, everyone. Let's talk about Vampire Diaries Season 8, Episode 16. I was feeling epic, which is the series finale. It's all over. It's done. It's just, wow. Wow is really the first word that kind of comes into my head when thinking about the finale. It was a great finale. I am very satisfied with how things ended, so that's a good start, right? Let's talk about the episode, first starting with some quick thoughts. I love that they had this moment where Bonnie dies and then she sees Elena. So for a second there, I was like, oh my god, did they kill Bonnie so that Elena can come back? But then at the same time, I was kind of like, but she's gonna go see Enzo, so I can't be too sad about this, right? But no, it wasn't her time, and I love that it was Enzo who kind of pulls her back into the world or living world. Oh, Enzo and Bonnie. They're still my favorites. Let's move on to Burning Hell. The first time that we see Elena, which actually turns out to be Catherine, I was completely convinced that it was Elena, especially since that's the scene that we saw in the promo for this episode. So I was like, oh my god, Elena. It makes sense because, Bonnie died, but then she came back. So maybe in that time, Elena was able to wake up and come back. But no, it was Catherine. But I'm glad because it also allowed us to see Catherine because it teased her so much that it was like, you had to see her at least one last time, so that was good. Also, was I the only one who wishes that we could have seen Catherine and Kate interact? Because apparently she had him wrapped around her little finger, and I'm like, yeah, can we see the scene? Because that sounds like a cool scene. I would not mind seeing that relationship. Unfortunately, the weapon that they made to kill Catherine didn't really kill her. I'm not really clear as to why the weapon for Cade actually killed him and the weapon for Catherine would just send her back to hell and not really kill her. But regardless, Bonnie saved the day with a little help from my friends. No, with a little help from her grandmother and all witches that died, right? Anyway, lots of witches pushing hellfire back to hell and burning it up. I'm still not exactly sure if it actually burnt hell or not, because they seem to say, well, we're destroying hell, and then you're destroying Catherine because we're sending hellfire back there. But if you remember in the flashback when we saw the first time that they had used the bell to create hellfire, when the witches were keeping the fire and kind of holding it there, it didn't really burn hell. Now, is it because they were just holding the fire and they didn't really push it back into hell? Or, which I'm guessing that might be it. But, I wasn't really clear about that. Still a really cool moment. A great way for us to see Catherine one last time and then for her to be gone forever. Unfortunately, that also meant we had to say goodbye to Stefan. The call that Caroline made to Stefan, letting him know that she understood why he had to do it. Wow, that really got me. I mean, I cried quite a few times in this episode, let's be honest, but that definitely was one moment where I was like, okay, it's just, all right. The whole, scene between Damon and Stefan, which I call the redemption off, because they were kind of trying to out-redemption each other.
No, I will sacrifice myself. No, I will sacrifice myself.
I love that they used Stefan's humanity against him, but not really, because he's been a vampire long enough to know that he wouldn't go one day without taking vervain, which I hadn't even thought of it, and obviously Damon didn't even think about it, but it was a great kind of a twist. I feel like, how can I say this? Not that I wanted Stefan to die, but out of all the characters remaining, he maybe was the easiest one to kind of send off because he wasn't waiting for Elena. He's a human now who's married to a vampire. So that was probably going to end up being quite tragic for Caroline. And they also had an opportunity to set up Caroline for something else, which they did at the end. And now we'll mention that. But I think it fit very well in terms of closing the book that is the Vampire Diaries. Him seeing Elena somewhere in the afterlife was really nice. It all started between those two. Obviously, it won't end with them, but it was nice that he got to say goodbye to her. However, I will admit, that scene didn't really make me tear up, but the Lexi scene when he comes out, and this is me being like, Lexi's waiting for you. Yep. That really, really got me. Especially when she says, wow, that was beautiful. And he responds, I was feeling epic, which is the title of the episode, which is also a line that Lexi told him in season 1, episode 8, 162 candles. I think that's like the best line that they've used for a title this season. So we said goodbye to Stefan, but we get to wake up Elena. I'm so happy they brought her back because I really feel like Vampire Diaries wouldn't have been complete without Elena making some sort of comeback or us seeing her, one last time. So Bonnie finally figured out a way to break the spell, and I love that she didn't even tell Caroline and Damon that she was trying, because I'm guessing that she didn't want to give them false hope. So the reveal when Caroline sees Elena, and then of course when Damon sees Elena, it's like, I've been waiting for this, you will. I feel like a lot of us have been waiting for this. So it was a great reunion. Made even sweeter by Stefan's last message to Caroline. So many feels in this finale. And that leads us to the epilogue, where we see how everybody's life kind of turned out. I love that because it's very similar to 6 Feet Under's finale, which if you haven't seen 6 Feet Under, it's an amazing show. It's also probably one of my favorite series finale ever. And this is pretty similar to that. I feel like it's a nice way for us to know what happens to the characters. It's wrapped things up a little bit. And I like that they also added the fact that some of the deceased characters are now watching over the living. And that allowed for quite a few returns this episode. First, of course, my favorite is Bonnie and Enzo. And Enzo is going to pretty much watch over her whole life until she dies and, goes to join him. Although part of me kind of wishes she does eventually meet someone that she can be happy with, but I'm conflicted. Then we have Matt, of course, who's still the sheriff and thinking of running for mayor. Vicky and Tyler are looking over him. Then we have Alaric opening his school for the young and the gifted with Caroline. And I'm sorry, I know I've mentioned this before, that it reminded me of X-Men the first time that they mentioned that, but this time with the sign saying it's a boarding school for the young and the gifted. Literally in X-Men, it's called Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters. Connections? Crossover? No. And the cool thing is, Caroline is helping him, but also Jeremy is helping them. So we got to see Jeremy again for like a split second. And we also got to see Jo looking over her girls, which was sweet. I won't lie, one of my favorite parts was Caroline getting the donation from Klaus. I don't think I've mentioned this before, but I was a big fan of Caroline and Klaus, definitely a Caroline shipper. But of course, when he left to go do the originals, I kind of figured that, that was kind of put to rest for now. But I love how they're kind of opening that door, which is what I was mentioning about the fact that, they killed off Stefan, because even if Caroline had stayed with him, eventually he would have died, and she's still a vampire. Plus, they kind of had this other option for her that they could set up, which I love that they set up a possible originals reunion. Possibly. That would be kind of cool. Oh, and I also want to mention that I like that we saw Caroline's mom one more time as well. And we, of course, ends with Elena, who talks about going to medical school and then living the rest of her life in Mystic Falls with Damon. And I like how they transition from them, we think, it's them kind of living, to, wait, this is like once they've moved on or died. And they're in the afterlife. Of course, Aunt Jenna is there, John, and her parents. She's finally reunited with her parents, which was really nice. But of course, the best part is Damon going to meet Stefan again, knocking on the door. And then Stefan opens and he just says, "Hello, brother." It's just epic.